coming, Victoria. I
Thank you
appreciate
for having
it.
me.
So for anybody that's watching that doesn't know, this is Victoria Broderick, who's running in the Tennessee's 4th Congressional District against Scott DeJarlis. Am I saying that right?
DeJarles.
DeJarlis. And he's been in office since 11?
Yes.
No kidding. Oh, let's start there. Tell us something about him.
Tell us something about him. All right. So Scott DeJarles was elected in 2011. He has been
pre-MAGA.
Pre-MAGA.
Okay.
He is a Tea Party member, though. That is
Gotcha.
going to be key to his move forward. So elected in 2011. Shortly after he was elected, he held his first and only town hall, where it also came out around that same time in his divorce documents that he pulled a gun on his wife and forced her to get an abortion. He also dry fired through the door. It also has come out that he has had 2 other partners get pregnant and force them to get abortions, as well as the reason they got pregnant was he was a doctor at the time and was utilizing medicine in return for relations. So he is
And he's held 1 town hall in 15 years?
1 town hall. His first and last town hall was in 2013.
2000. Jesus Christ, Obama was president.
Yes.
Oh
So
my God.
he is considered by a conservative magazine the worst representative in conservative magazine worst Republican elected representative in Congress. He never comes to his district. If he does, it's only for friendly events. We have asked him to come, whatnot, debate, etc. He has never debated one of his opponents. He only ever has sent an intern and just let them take the brunt of it. So that's kind of who he is. He's been caught in closed door sessions saying that if he meets with constituents, he loses votes. So I am challenging a nice little potato.
Now, is anybody primarying you for the Democratic nomination?
So I am getting primaried. This is going to be my first time being primaried. I was not primaried in 2024 because they couldn't find anyone to run, and that's kind of where my story began, and my run began. So it's been a really fun ride. So I guess I'll slide right into that and kind of give you my insight. I don't know if you know this, Tom. So for those who don't know, in 2024, I found out my opponent, Scott DeJarles, was going to run unopposed, and I said over my dead body. I picked up a position over a weekend and some liquid courage. I was on a chair meeting for the district because at that time I was a chair for one of the 93 counties here in Tennessee. We now have all 95 have Democratic parties. And over 5 months, ran a congressional campaign raising over $120,000. That's where I've met Tom because I had a TikTok presence and was able to grow the district. I am the first congressional candidate for this district to run as a openly progressive, and progressive is just working class values. If you like weekends, if you like your 8-hour work days, that is all that progressivism means. It's progress with purpose. My hard launch into politics was running for Congress, but my soft launch was in 2021 when I found out my birth control had failed, and I found out I was pregnant and had to navigate a medical care system that is not easy to navigate when you are having a complicated pregnancy. Unfortunately, I miscarried, and then a month later found out I was pregnant again, and 9 months after that I gave birth to a really beautiful baby, and basically had to again navigate a hard and complicated pregnancy while Roe was still in place. But while I was on maternity leave, it was overturned. And if you all don't know, Tennessee had a trigger ban that went into effect right after. So everything that I experienced a year prior would now be almost illegal in Tennessee. And I would be subject to a lot of weird regulations. We've witnessed this multiple times. Allie Phillips is a notable candidate who ran for ran for state house. And so I did the logical thing. I created a TikTok, started educating and yelling at people on the internet about how to get involved and why politics was important, the logical thing to do. I also stepped into a county chair role. That's where I became county chair for the Democratic Party. And basically just started educating and growing my county and working with the state party, showing that representation matters, getting hard launched into understanding how our political system works. And then fast forward to 2024, my opponent was going to run unopposed. So I did all this while working full time. I have two tiny humans, a 3 and a 5 year old, now three fur babies, but at the time I had four. Foster with a local humane society and was able to grow the district. I was told that I would not get any help, that I would not win, all those things, but none of it stopped me because about 15 seconds after I lost, I said, I'm going to run again. And here we are.
So I'm assuming that part of the reason why this guy DeJarlis keeps getting reelected in his district is the Democrats not being willing to put any kind of money or any real challenge, but also because it's such a red district, right? I mean,
Yes,
the biggest city. It's my understanding the biggest city in your district is Murfreesboro.
that is
And how
correct.
big
Yeah.
is Murfreesboro?
Murfreesboro is where I get the majority of my votes. It actually is the swing, it's considered the swing county. So I got about 55,000 votes just out of Murfreesboro in my first election. And now I've been campaigning for 2 years, so we don't run any poll numbers, but that's what it is. This district has only looked like this since 2022. So this will only be the third time that an election has been run with the district looking as it is. Basically, they've gerrymandered it because they gerrymandered Nashville into three different congressional districts. So Nashville, Tennessee, which was a blue district, had blue representation, is now gerrymandered into three Republican-held seats. So that's Congressional District 5, Congressional District 7, and Congressional District 6. I'm Congressional District 4, and I don't touch Chattanooga, Nashville, or Memphis. So no major cities are touched for me, but I touch the outskirts of most of those counties.
So within your new district, a newish district, what is the sentiment towards abortion rights? Because you mentioned Roe, you mentioned this is what kind of kicked you into the campaign, and I just did a video today about some state level Tennessee Republicans who are looking to, if my information was correct, input add a little verbiage in there that says they want to impose the death penalty for women that get abortions. Is that correct?
Yes, it is an unliked. I want to say the last poll that was done, like 70% of Tennesseans wanted abortion protected, because we have situations like with Allie Phillips out. She is running in for a state house in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is where my alma mater is. So I absolutely love that. I'm Austin P graduate in 2015. She basically had her baby died inside of her. She got the anatomy scan. She qualified under the limited exceptions, and the state of Tennessee said no. So in that process, the baby died inside of her. She had to flee to New York City to get an abortion, and then that's when she found out her baby had died. And she's testified in front of Congress, but she's not alone. There have been a lot of these experiences here in Tennessee, and now they're putting forth this death penalty for abortion, which is unimaginable considering the fact that we have the highest maternal mortality rate. I already had a hospital close in my district. So that location, Giles County, which is Pulaski, Tennessee, if you recognize that name, it's because where the KKK started. This is the county that now they'll have to drive an hour and a half north to Nashville, have to drive to the next closest hospital is about 35 minutes away, or they have to drive to Huntsville, Alabama, which is about an hour from them. This is unacceptable because that is too long of a time in a car when you need, especially in a rural area. Like people don't realize how rural this area is. It is a farming district. We have very curvy roads. It is not compatible with people having to drive hours upon hours in order to get maternal care essentially, and babies to have proper care in a hospital.
Now, is it enough? Is the extremism with abortion enough to push somebody over the top in a red district? Like, how close did you come in the last election?
So in the last election, considering I was a no-name candidate, it was my first time ever running. I actually grew the district. So while that it's a 30% growth, what we saw was a significant jump between myself and the next closest that would have gotten in that range was Chris Hale, who ran in 2020. And now the district looked different at that point, but there was a growth. And the question came in, what was I running on that was different? And it was running as openly working class. I have Republicans who are huge supporters of me. I have farmers across the district who are interested in my campaign and what I can do for them, as well as I did something that we haven't seen in the past. I utilized social media and social media contacts. I leveraged the fact that I just outworked my opponent. He doesn't come to the district, so all I had to do was show up. I luckily work remotely, so I could go work at a local coffee shop and just show up at an event, talk for 30 minutes, and then dip out if I needed to. And basically, I just outworked it. And what we saw was that significant growth, and that was with 5 months. And now I've been campaigning for 2 years, consistently doing events. I've also been all over the country building my name recognition. I am very well known within the state party. I'm also an EC member, so I represent one of the districts for the Tennessee State Democratic Party. So I help make the decisions that they're doing, which while yes, they're not going to help my campaign, they're not going to, it's just because we saw the work on the other side and Nashville feels flippable. That's fine. I want to prove that it is possible to flip a rural district like mine because it's already been gerrymandered. What are they going to do when I come and take it from them?
Right. Exactly. Eh, On your website, I was looking at your website tonight or this afternoon. You got some bullet points of the things that matter to your campaign the most. And at the top it says pro democracy. Can you kind of elaborate on what that means?
Oh, yeah, what's going on in the administration right now is unacceptable. Impeach, convict, remove. I'm part of the Citizens Impeachment Coalition. I am part of candidates across the country. I believe that we need to hold this administration accountable. And I believe that your rights need to be protected. So in 2024, first run for office, I wasn't really sure about my messaging. Now I'm steadfast in it. I'm running on safety, affordability, freedom, and equity, and all of those fall under pro democracy because currently our administration is making it a top versus bottom fight while everyone thinks we're fighting left and right. And I'm like, no, 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 this is a top versus bottom fight. They are literally ripping us off at the top, and Donald Trump is essentially helping them with that.
And how do the people on your district feel about impeach, convict, remove? Because once again, it's a very red district. I'm assuming he wins your district by a lot, by a landslide, right?
He does, and luckily for me, with a midterm election, I can close that gap a lot more quickly and easily. So with the impeach, convict, removed, originally, a lot of people were kind of hesitant for that messaging, but they do like the working class values. I talk a lot about representation matters. I'm no different than your barista that brings you coffee. The only difference is I bring you legislation that helps your district. And a lot of people are responding to that really well, especially luckily for me, the administration puts it out there and I can just utilize that content for myself and what they're doing. And Donald Trump is really good at running his mouth. So the impeach, convict, remove is starting to pay off in my in my favor because being pro democracy, I just talk about your rights matter, your individual rights matter, whether that's you know getting your gender affirming care or making sure that you're still a gun owner because I'm a gun owner. I own my own weapon. We keep it safely stored, but I recognize as an owner we have a duty to understand what's going on in our country and we need to address the issue because if it's only bad guys with guns then we need to address how they are getting those guns and take accountability and what that means for our communities.
Well, that was another bullet point that I saw on your website. Your district is like in southern Tennessee, right? You actually border northern Georgia, right?
Not northern Georgia, northern
Uh,
Alabama.
Alabama. My apologies.
Yeah, you're fine.
So guns are huge where you're at,
Yes.
and one of your bullet points is gun reform.
Yeah.
So, what gun reform are you selling to people in southern Tennessee that they're buying into?
Safe storage in cars, because in Tennessee, our number one basically crime is stealing guns out of cars. They're there's nothing locking them up. There's no kind of protection. So I just talk about it in a, we're gun owners. We need to understand that there is an issue, and how can we do this? Increasing healthcare so that if mental health is, especially with Republicans, I talk a lot about, if your mental health is your focus, then we need to be focusing on healthcare, because then if people have easier access to healthcare, we can address those issues more quickly. And, we can pair that with some stronger lesser legislation that we already have, that is making sure that our background checks are closing loopholes in, gun shows, which are popular here in Tennessee. These are things that we can do at a federal level that still allow you to have your gun, but we just require that you put it in, store it up, like make sure it's safe when it's in your car. And there's actually a candidate for governor who has like a $25, it's a safety lock that you literally donate $25 and you get a safety lock in it. It's just for in your car, because she's an owner as well. And she was like, well, instead of like complaining about the issue and saying, I'm just not going to address it, she created and worked with a team to create something that can benefit everyone.
Now, you're not talking about anything really beyond that, right? You're not talking about gun registries or assault weapons bans or anything of that nature.
Yeah, I don't really talk about those. I talk about the things that we can address at that are a little bit more palatable. I would like to see like assault ban, but I also like tailor that to my messaging and what it works. As an owner, I know that it turns people off, so I try to address it softly, especially when people are like that. But when they find out I'm a gun owner, they think that that's pretty amazing. I'm like, we can go to the range. Let's go. I'm a good shot.
So you said you're in farm country. You're not in coal mine country, then.
No, not in coal mining. We are in farmed. We do a lot of soybean farming, and we've been lucky enough to like mitigate some of what's going on here in the United States with farmers, because we have such large contracts with Alabama, and that is
Okay.
because just south of us is Huntsville, Alabama, which is going to be a hub for NASA, another hub for NASA in a real way. And I think it's like SpaceX. I think Trump had said something about that. Now the city's panicking because they're like, where are we going to put all these people? Because they're growing so quickly. And my district actually gets runoff because people end up living in Tennessee to avoid state income tax and then commuting to Huntsville. But that is a hard thing to do because our education is less. That has less. We're lower in education on our end. So it's like a catch 22, but a lot of people who work in Alabama live in Tennessee.
So what about go back to these soybean contracts in Alabama with the state of Alabama? They're buying up your soybeans in your area to do what with?
I can't remember the exact usage of this off the top of my head, and I know that but I do know that that was part of that use is that goes to Alabama that they
Okay.
buy it, and I would definitely need to get the numbers and why that it is Alabama, because I have a couple of farmers who kind of like keep me in the loop because they're big fans as well. One of them hosted me at his house, and we took pictures with his guns on the front porch. It was his wife's idea.
So as you know, I had a trucking company and we hauled bulk agricultural exports. And one of the commodities that we hauled, so we hauled things like dried distillers grain and corn and soybeans and bean meal and whatnot. And a lot of times the soybeans in the United States of America can go to get burned off to use for ethanol. And I didn't know if there was a lot of ethanol plants in and around that northern
That might
Alabama
be it.
area.
That might
Okay.
be it. I know that I also, so my district's also whiskey district, so Jack Daniels, George Dickel, and Uncle Nearest all come out of my district.
There you
I
go.
live 20
Okay.
minutes from Jack Daniels, and yes, I know I am a bourbon girly. I know my bourbons and my whiskeys, so, if you need a stiff drink, I've always got one on deck.
So it's interesting that you were talking about how, and I'm not a drinker, I'm a smoker. So
Mhm.
until your states legalize things, I don't know.
I know.
But you were talking about how Huntsville is growing. Do you know the rate at which Huntsville is growing right now?
I
I'm just
think it
curious.
was, I wanna say, maybe a couple years ago, it was, like, number 5 in smaller cities growth, and it has exploded. It has exploded since my family has lived in this area for about 17 years now, 18 years, And it has exploded from what it was. And mainly a lot of people knew it because it is like military and we've got a lot of
Right. Yeah.
contract, especially we have a lot of contracts with the government in Huntsville, Alabama. So it is exploding. They are doing work that is you can clearly see it. My area, like the road that I lived on in high school, it used to be a quarter of a mile before we could like see a friend, like or a neighbor's house, and now that's not like I can see houses from my dad's house now because that's where he still lives, and like we have neighbors now that we didn't have before because it used to just be like I think the person beside us owned a couple hundred acres and their house was on the backside of the property.
Okay.
um and so I mean like you're seeing this all over where it is exploding. Our schools are having in Tennessee are having to adjust to that because we have so many schools on that southern part of the district. um all that influx is we're starting to see from Huntsville,
Do you,
of
do
people
you know
wanting
what
to
the
save
largest
money.
city? Do you know what the largest city in Alabama happens to be? I was going to look it up
I
real
think
quick
it's
while we were talking.
Birmingham or
Bar-
Montgomery. Yeah. Yes, someone said in the comments the space industry keeps Huntsville going, and that is the truth.
okay. I think I typed this in wrong. Because it's giving me Huntsville, but I want population.
Mhm.
The reason I'm asking is because oh, Huntsville is the largest city
Oh, I'm not surprised
in
by that.
Alabama by population, having surpassed Birmingham with an estimated population of over 225,000 as of 2024. The reason I'm
Wow.
asking is because um, I think what we see in Georgia is what you see in Illinois. You have
Mhm.
this massive sweeping rural area, and then you have one big ass city.
Yeah.
And Atlanta is why Georgia was able to go blue for Joe Biden, why Georgia is going to be able to go blue in the future, because Atlanta is doing to Georgia what Illinois does to, or what Chicago does to Illinois. Most of the people in the state live in that area. And I'm wondering if you might not be beginning to see that happening in Alabama as well with that kind of region. Now, listen, it's not like it's going to be a major metropolitan area, but for the state, it could just suck up so much of the vote that and it's so blue that it becomes a target for the Republicans down the road. But it also has a chance of, can you imagine if Alabama and Georgia could both go blue at some point in time? Jeez, that would be something
If you
else.
could imagine, I think Tennessee is gonna go blue because here's the thing that like what is happening in Tennessee. So one of the counties in my district, Rutherford County, is on the like nationwide map for flippable districts. So if we flip those districts, there were districts in the and precincts in that county that myself and Kamala won, like by a landslide. So what we're seeing with Rutherford County is the same thing we're also seeing in Montgomery County, which is in Congress District 7, which is where Afton Bain ran in the special election and closed that gap from 22 points to 8 points. Um,
Okay.
she moved the needle hard. Every single rural county moved. I have the benefit of having run in 2024 that I have all the numbers. And so what I did is I sat down with every county in our district and I gave them how many additional votes they need to get in their rural county to flip it, which is a very small number. A lot of it is very small. Whereas Rutherford County is where I have to get the most votes, and I've been now campaigning for 2 years and building name recognition. I've been going on podcast interviews and whatnot. So we're excited to see that with the fact that we've seen the swings in Texas, we've seen the swings across the country, as well as Nashville, like Atlanta, is booming outward. So part of Nashville comes into Laverne and Smyrna, and even Rutherford County fall under that. So those are in that I-24 corridor going into Chattanooga. So that entire thing is basically if they're commuting either to Chattanooga or to Nashville on that corridor or to Rutherford County. And what we're seeing in the state is the swing, as well as we're seeing people being disenfranchised. Every event that I have come at, I've had more and more Republicans showing up at where they hear what I'm talking about and they're like, "You sound so reasonable. You sound so moderate." And that is the comment I get. I get in some of the most rural districts is how moderate I sound. And that's always funny to me. I always call my campaign manager after because I'm not. I'm speaking to working class rural voters because I'm a working class rural voter as well. I know what it's like living in a small town where you're struggling with the income tax, or there's not the income tax, the city taxes. My city taxes and my county taxes were just raised almost 50% to compete with Shelby County, which is Memphis's big county. And we're not that. Like the median income in my county was under $50,000. So why are they raising that so much? And we're seeing that growth out of Huntsville, but we're losing $2.5 million to Huntsville because people don't want to stay here in a small town. They want to go eat at a nice restaurant in Huntsville, get a brew, like get some like a beer or whatnot. Because unfortunately for my district, there's just not they we have just some weird stuff going on at a county and a state level that make it hard for people to want to stay here, young people to want to stay here. So this is what we're seeing going into the 2026 election. Makes this kind of a wild card, especially with the fact that I've been campaigning for so long and I closed that margin so quickly in 5 months in 2024. That's not saying it's not going to be it could not be a landslide. I will love it when it is a landslide. But we are seeing this movement and this growth across the country, which gives me a very good opportunity going into 2026.
Well, and of all the red states that could have an opportunity of going blue, I mean, you and I have been mutuals for a minute, so you see me talking about like Texas. I would love to see Texas blue on the map. I keep saying that I'll believe it when I see it. I think people often forget that Arkansas and Tennessee is where Bill Clinton and Al Gore came from. So,
Mhm.
you have a two-term Democratic vice president coming out of that state. It's not unheard of that the state could possibly go blue. It'd be nice to see it go blue. Um,
And the
another
wild thing
issue.
of I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say the
No, no, no,
wild
no,
thing about
no.
my district is it was blue. We up until
See,
2008, we were Lincoln Davis was our representative until the Republicans did a down ballot initiative in states like Tennessee, where we saw this supermajority flip because we are uniquely a supermajority in three ways. We have a supermajority in our legislature. At our federal level, all but one seat is held by Republicans, and our governor is Republican. We also have most of the right wing, far right media outlets have moved to Nashville, Tennessee. There is a reason for that. So what our state is a testing ground. Now you have the movement of my district, you have the movement in Afton's district, we have movement in Andy Ogle's district, which is considered the next flippable. That's the focus for most of them, as well as we have a Democratic Party. No, sorry, a Democratic Party that is punching back. This Tennessee State Democratic Party was the first to put up "fuck ICE" on the page, and that was a clear decision to be made here, because we were like, no, we're going to be at the front of this. We were also the first to endorse Kamala um, with our delegates. So Tennessee has something very interesting going on here, and we're not a red state, we're a voter suppressed and non-voting state. So when people are like, "Are you're going to lose?" I'm like, I'm not worried about losing. I'm worried about voter apathy because the change is possible. If 200,000 people showed up to vote that don't normally vote in the 2026 election, every single seat would flip. It's that easy.
that's very interesting. Just 200,000 people. That could make the difference between a whole state flipping. You talked about how people want to live in your district, but work and play in Huntsville, down in Alabama, and whatnot, what have you. So,
Mhm.
if the average median income in your district, you said is 50,000,
So 50,000.
then
Yeah.
how affordable is the housing there if people are wanting to move there to live there?
I mean, the housing is affordable. You can get a decent amount of property for little to nothing. Like my house that I bought in 2021, we had no intention of living here long term, but now we've been outpriced because the housing market is skyrocketed in Tennessee. Like my house in Nashville would be $1 million on the property that it's on. Here, I paid 150 for it. And I mean, you can get a 3-bedroom house. I have my house was built in 1939. It's a stone house. It's very beautiful. Um, Needed a lot of work, and we did a lot of work on it. But I mean, this is what that you can buy. You can buy a decent house here. The housing prices are still pretty reasonable considering. Um, but they're starting to go up because they're reflecting some of that Nashville runoff as well as Huntsville runoff.
And what about the taxes? Because if you don't have a bunch of industry, then the tax burden, the liability rests on the homeowners.
Yeah. So I mean, the taxes is where they do make some of their money back. While there's no state income tax, you definitely see it in your taxes across the board. It's still this is where that kind of like between state, local, and federal goes in is because a lot of local taxes are put in. So like our local city taxes, who wanted to tax us at 50%, they are also keeping big businesses out of our county. I mean, my local mayor knows me very well, unfortunately, and I'm constantly annoying her and my state senators because I show up to meetings to talk about what's going on here. We've got property that has been bought out by Meta. Like we have solar panels in our just like in my county and in my like on my drive in my district that are solely owned, like hundreds of acres owned by Meta, just for solar power for their places down in Huntsville because they have a big data center down in Huntsville.
Something that we're getting ready to get here in the next town over. Huge data center, couple of towns south of us, huge data center. I was just watching some content about a massive data center that's going in North Texas that is going to consume as much energy as every home in the state of Texas times two on an annual basis. I don't know what we're going to do about these damn data centers and the amount of energy that they're using up. But we also everybody's using AI.
Mhm.
Everybody's, I mean, I make my living doing content. I'm on every social media platform, so I don't know what the answer is to that stuff, but there's got to be something that's going to result in the people not seeing their resources ravaged, because these data centers are chewing up not only electricity but water at a rate that's astronomical. And out
Yeah.
here, we're on a lot of ground well water, and we're a few years away from getting Lake Michigan water by us. But I'm ranting about Northern Illinois, and that's not what the
No,
hell this
I
is
think
about.
this is an interesting pivot. We can talk about AI because
Yeah.
I work in tech. I work for the last 5 years I've worked in the tech industry. So my job is tech support. I support like SaaS-based products, apps, applications, and browser
Okay.
applications. So I'm uniquely positioned going into Congress, understanding some of that back end stuff. I know how much data like is consumed. Like my products are different, but I can see on the back end how much data is consumed and what kind of data we are scraping from you. I also understand that AI is a tool and it should be utilized. However, it is a tool, not a replacement. And that is what we need to put some barriers on, and we can put barriers on at a federal level. If not only they're paying their fair taxes, because tech, big corporations need to be paying their fair share, as well as we need to put some guardrails around these products because of the amount of data that they are consuming, what they are able to create with the data that they consume. Because, like, one of the little known facts is Meta has profiles on every single person in the world, regardless if they're on Meta or not. That includes your children. Your children will have an entire platform and profile built out on them prior to them ever turning 18 years old or getting on a Meta platform. That is insane. And without people, young people specifically, or people who work within the industry who understand the implications that that has, that's not going to be okay for everyone because we've all seen these movies. And I love to quote Jeff Goldblum. It's like, no one stopped to ask, should we? They just did
Hmm.
it. And that is so important going into this is it should be a tool. It should not be a replacement and it should not be a data collector for people, especially children.
Here's the thing. I agree with you. I don't disagree with you one bit. I think when it comes to data collection, I think the horse is sort of out of the barn,
Yeah.
because I don't know how we get back from. They already know everything about us, right? Everybody get. when I do a TikTok, for example, in my front yard, people go, "Oh, you're showing your house, you're showing your your license plate." I'm like, "My license plate? My license plate is filmed 9,000 times when I go to the grocery store." I'm not worried about the data collection aspect of it as much, and I don't like it, but I'm not worried about it as much. I am worried about the replacement aspect. You were talking about the replacement aspect. One of the things I heard. Oh hell! What is it? The guy who used to own the Dallas Mavericks.
Mhm.
He was
What's
on
his name?
the
I know what
Shark
you're talking
Tank.
about. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
uh,
his name? Somebody say it in the chat.
yeah. Somebody's going to tell us in the chat. I heard him talking about AI in an interview one time, and he said if you take into consideration the amount of advancement that humankind has made over the course of the last, and he put it at 50 years. Mark Cuban,
There we go.
50 years. He says, you think about how much advancement we've experienced in 50 years. He said, AI is going to be able to create that much advancement in 5 years. And then from that level of advancement, we're going to be able to create that much advancement in a matter of a year. And it's just going to keep shrinking to the point where AI is going to be spitting out solutions to problems before we can finish putting them into the damn machine. And that's
Mhm.
when I said, and I'm being very serious when I said, I'm glad I was born when I was. I was born in 1972. I'm 54 years old. I maybe have 20 good years left. I am not going to be alive to see the robots take over. Having said that, I don't want to see them take over.
Yeah,
But going to the replacement aspect, what's the unemployment like in your district? Are you guys? Do you guys have a strong manufacturing background? I know
we
you talked
did.
about agriculture.
We did. We don't anymore. Like specifically in my county, there was a fight between the city and one of the it's now called Daikin, but it was Goodman. Before it was bought out by a Chinese company, it closed down and it was the biggest employment in just the county that I live in. And what happened was those jobs disappeared. As far as unemployment in Tennessee, I don't know the exact number on that, but we do have a high unemployment rate. And when put that with AI, which is ruling out easy jobs. Your AI is what when you order that, Walmart order, which because there's a Walmart in my town, there's not anything for 30 minutes. When you put in that Walmart order and you do it all on the app, you're eliminating someone's job by doing that because you're eliminating because they have a picker, the person goes and picks whatever you do, they show up and pick up, or you have it picked showed up at your house. Like that is part of that's eliminating someone's job. So what we're seeing and what we will see is jobs like mine where it's tech support. I'm the front lines. I'm the person between the engineers and you. I'm communicating everything in a very easy, friendly way, as well as getting as much data as I can for an engineer so that they can look at this on the back end and say, okay, we know this, and this is the bug, blah, blah, blah. This is what's causing it. And now with AI, not only can AI write in my voice, it could potentially do all of those same things that I just said and provide that to the engineers, completely eliminating my role. Because if you are utilizing ChatGPT, ask it to write a message like in your voice. Because it has a whole profile on how to write. Mine, I don't use mine in that way, but it can write. My boss did it, and she was like, it wrote it exactly how I would write it, and it scared her.
Can you go back to the Walmart thing for a moment here?
Yeah.
So you said there's a job eliminated when you do the order on the app.
Yeah.
Well, what's the job that's eliminated? Can you be specific on that one? I'm
So it's going
interested
to
in
be
that.
like that, like your checkout line, because they don't
Okay.
need someone sitting in the checkout line. They need less people in the checkout lines. That's why you don't see as many open now. It eliminates that because you're ordering online and it's getting put in a cart by like some picker who like maybe they have someone who has a roll the litter goes and picks all the groceries and puts them in a cart and then bag them. They check out and you either show up and pick it up or it's put in a car and it's driven to your house. That eliminates basically a service job of someone who's going to check you out at the grocery store who can, say, hey, like, how's your day going? Do the quick checkout and then send you out the door after they give you your, money and whatnot.
And this is something that really does interest me because it's something that gets utilized more and more and more. And I'm not trying to dispute you, but it eliminates a cashier job, but doesn't it increase the picker jobs?
Depends on the company.
I don't know what
Because
the balance is.
ironically, I worked in college. I worked at Starbucks, So I worked as a barista, and that the year that I was one of the years
Your
that I was
blue-haired
hired.
liberal barista?
Yeah, that
Damn it.
one.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That one. I'm just fixing I'm filling the tropes in here. Yeah, went to school full time, worked full time. Anyway, one of the year the like last year I worked there. This is before the big changeover where we really saw the shift in how Starbucks was as a company or is as a company. This was the shift in that they released the application order, and they didn't hire additional people to work. They didn't hire additional people. They let those baristas suffer. And if you saw it through the pandemic is where it really picked up because we were seeing more of those orders because people still wanted to go out and get their drinks, but not they couldn't go in the stores. And you had this like weird like influx, and it really it shifted how that goes because they didn't replace those people. A lot of baristas, like myself included, I could make in I've pushed out 50 drinks in 30 minutes. I had a very my fastest drink time, which was 2 drinks at the same time, was 45 seconds. And I was constantly on bar because I could pump out the drinks. That said, that is a high burnout rate. It's a high stress job,
Yeah, right.
and then you add in those additional drink tickets where they're coming in at a rapid fire. There's no way to filter it through. They're just all coming in at once. You have these burst and waves of like that you could have at times that you wouldn't normally have. You might not have it staffed at the right time. So it is very interesting to see how this will shake out as far as jobs because that yes it's a used and I'm guilty. I use it all the time. I don't want to talk to people. I work in customer service. I talk to people constantly on the campaign trail. It gets tiring. How I haven't crossed the picket line, guys. I just want to say that like really clearly. But this is that thing. So if you can take an extra 15 minutes and go in the store, you're helping the baristas, you're helping the managers, you're just helping in general. And we're seeing this across platforms. It's not just AI's been introduced on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. You have these auto edits, you have these
Oh, yeah.
they're eliminating jobs. I mean, you don't need a graphic designer anymore. You can just go to Canva.
Or I mean, so like I have merch. I'm gonna move on to another topic here in a minute, but I do T-shirts and hoodies, and I don't know how to graphic design, so I need a graphic designer that I work with. One of the platforms that I like to use just to kind of get off on a side or tangent here is Fiverr. Fiverr is gig economy. It's independent contractors that do like for me, it's graphic design. I also I had a couple of podcasts, and I hired a guy, a contractor out of that site to do my intro and my outro because you get to work directly with the people. They get to set their own price. They set a schedule for delivery, and I can have direct communication with them, which is something that I really like as far as having that. But I digress here. One of my biggest issues, personally speaking, well, two of my big issues. We talked on one of my big issues because I have a wife, 3 daughters, and 2 granddaughters. Access to abortion is a huge issue for me. But the kind of like the age old bullshit question: if you could be president for a day and they let you do one thing without congressional approval, what would you do? For me, the one thing that I think that anybody could do that would have the biggest impact on the most number of people in the positive direction would be universal health care. So where is healthcare at in your district? How do people feel about universal health? Because I know a lot of people out in the rural areas and in the red states are like, I want the government out of my goddamn healthcare, without realizing that if you enter the government, if you bring the government into our healthcare, we can actually lower costs and improve outcome. So what? One of the reasons, one of the big reasons why it's an issue for me is I work, we work for ourselves. We do content creation full time. So we are our own company now. We don't have employer based healthcare. And I just paid next month's healthcare literally this afternoon, right before we came on. And, it's $1,800 a month for a dog shit United Healthcare plan where I still have a $9,000 deductible. I still have a $20,000 family out of pocket for the annual. And I still pay $100 every time I go to the goddamn specialist. So,
Mhm.
healthcare. Tell us where you stand on healthcare and where your district is on healthcare.
Yeah, so I mean, my district utilizes healthcare, whether they think they do or not. We are some of the highest participants in 10 care. I have counties, most of the counties in my district, almost 45 to 50% of the children are on state government healthcare. 10,
Okay.
it's called 10 care here, but it's Medicaid. So I'm all for universal health care because I recognize that that allows more flexibility for a lot of people. They can change, they can move to different places, as well as my district utilizes it. We need rural hospitals. You can't be driving 45 minutes to a hospital when you've been kicked in the face by a horse or a cow. Like, that's just not, it's not feasible. So we need universal health care. And as someone who fully supports it, I want to take off some of the restrictions that are put around because our pharmacists aren't allowed to practice their profession fully. Our employees are strapped to a desk and an employer when they could shop around more, and employers would have to
Yeah.
pay more in order to keep good employees, because if you're not strapped to your desk for the benefits, for that low deductible or whatever you're getting, which they're not getting any better, they're in fact getting worse. I've watched my healthcare get worse over the last 2 years. You are more likely to shop around, more likely to start your own business. It takes the pressure off of small businesses because they're not having to worry about covering healthcare. I mean, I've got tons of small businesses in my district that don't need to be worrying about their employees having healthcare. Their employees should be focusing on being employees and working and having the benefits of going to the doctor and not getting a $6,000 bill at the end of the day, or walking away with medical bankruptcy. I mean, that is part of our district. And we know a lot of people put off healthcare when they don't have access to it until it is so bad that they have to go to the hospital and they get that huge like bill, or they go bankrupt. Those are unacceptable things for our district to be experienced. It's unacceptable for anyone. So I would love to see universal health care put in, Medicare for all. I love Bernie Sanders' plan. I think that's easily implemented. We already have an infrastructure. We could easily hire and make it expanded out so that we can easily get this to most Americans and not have to worry about you know what's going to happen with your job healthcare insurance, and that extra you get more money in your pocket and you pay a little bit less, a little bit more in taxes, but it's really less at the end of the day because you're not paying $400 a paycheck for crap health insurance.
Exactly. And you could take the existing Medicare infrastructure and the existing private healthcare infrastructure, absorb some of the private healthcare to beef up the Medicare position and eliminate the private healthcare as much as humanly possible. But see, you talked about how many kids in your district were on essentially Medicaid.
Yes.
Wasn't Tennessee one of the states that pulled back on Medicaid?
Yep.
And
We
how
were.
much did that affect the people in your district?
I put out percentages. I have like a list of all the percentages in my district, but almost 45% of the kids in my district are on Medicaid. And I'm
40%?
45%.
45. Holy shit. Okay.
Like, most of the children in our district are on 10 care and some form of 10 care. So I mean, and that's not including the mothers that are on 10 care, because I've been on 10 care before. It was a phenomenal experience, but there are lots of loopholes and gatekeepers because they want to keep illegal immigrants here in Tennessee from getting 10 care, which they can't 95% of the time. Like, they're not going to, because right now we have a huge ICE problem in our state and just really in our country. So I mean, this is part of it. Like, they are going to negatively feel it, and I mean, across the state. My kid goes to kindergarten, and all the school lunches are free because so many of the children need free lunch just in our county, and that is across the state. And these are things that we need, but Tennessee legislature and the federal government have said whatever to the children.
See, it's one of the things that absolutely aggravates the living piss out of me. With personal experience, family members and friends who live in red areas in red states, you're talking about an area where so many people are relying on government assistance. So many people are maybe living below the poverty line and are struggling, and they keep voting for people that keep taking their fucking shit away from them. And I don't understand it. Why do these people keep voting for the people that is the hatred of the other people, the hatred of the immigrant, the hatred of anybody with a D next to their name, the hatred of anybody that's progressive so strong that these people are willing to continuously vote against their own best interests?
I mean, I would say yes. I think they've been lied to. And I mean, to be fair to them, the
There is,
Democratic
yes.
the Democrats have not done a good job. They've abandoned rural communities. They've
Yes.
abandoned states like Tennessee. This is my biggest complaint with Democrats. And people are always like, "Why are you running as a Democrat? You could run as this, you could run as that." And it's like,
Because you need
look,
to.
we're in a two-party system. You have two modes of transportation. You should treat it like a bus. You are just getting on the bus that's going in the direction you want to go. There is always a stop in 2 years. You can get off that bus at any point in that time and say, "This is not working for me. I'm going to vote differently." However, most people view it as you're buying a house with a white picket fence. You're Republican forever once you vote Republican until the house burns down and everything inside of it's gone and you're left naked on the street with nothing left. And that is where it's going for a lot of Republicans right now. I mean, the entire country is feeling it, but Republicans are starting to see the negative repercussions of this. So we have a not only an image problem on the Democratic side, which needs to be addressed, and that's addressed with candidates like myself who are pushing get back against the norm. I am also working actively with the party to push back because I understand we are in a two-party system. There is no clear path for a third party to get into elected. Do I want to see that change? Absolutely, I do. At this point in time, I have to use the two modes of transportation, and you will not catch me dead on a Republican ballot. Like, it wouldn't happen, and you have to pay $30,000 in the state of Tennessee to get on the Republican ballot, and that's not how my bank account works. So
And listen, you're right. Democrats have forgotten a lot of that. That's how West Virginia used to be blue.
Mhm.
West Virginia used to be very Democratic, and Democrats pulled away from coal mining and that type of industry, and as a result, West Virginians felt left behind, and they've been solidly red ever since. Ohio was blue for a while. As a matter of fact, Ohio was a swing state for. I'm slightly older than you are.
Just a
Ohio
little
was a
bit.
swing state for just a little bit. Ohio was a swing. I think I have a kid your age. How old are you?
33.
Fuck, I have a kid older than you. I literally have a kid a few years older than you.
My age shows.
It
Hey,
is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, Ohio used to be. I mean, people forget that Obama won Florida twice.
no,
It's not that these things are out of the realm of possibility. It is partially the messaging. And yes, we live in a two-party system, and it would be fantastic if we had 6 or 7 viable options when we went into the voting booth, but we don't. And it's one of the messages that I keep hammering home is, listen, you're not going to like everything about every single candidate that's going to be on the ticket, but you've got to vote for the Democrat, because if you don't, the fascists keep winning. And if the fascists keep winning, then what we see in the streets of Minneapolis and Chicago and New York is going to keep on happening. And what we see as far as like you guys, you said you were slightly lucky given that your agricultural commodities generally stay within the country. But Illinois, Kansas, a lot of these commodities that we've been hauling, they go to China, they go to Southeast Asia. It's what my wife did for 20 years. And when these tariffs come on, they're next to impossible to work around. They damage industry severely. And
can we talk about that for a second?
yes, go right on ahead, because I got to be honest with you. I'm glad that you guys are not feeling the effects of it. I keep doing content day after day. I did another one today about these farmers who keep voting for Donald Trump, and then they lose their Asian markets because Americans produce the most soybeans of any other country out there. I don't know if the people who are listening understand that. So we
Mhm,
grow soybeans better than anybody on the planet. And
mhm,
China was buying like 24% of our soybeans. And when Trump stepped in and pulled his shit and pulled that market out from underneath them, a lot of farmers suffered so badly that even the thousands of dollars that the bailout is going to send them isn't even going to come close to covering their losses. Sorry, you take it.
no, you're fine. First, I want to call out there's a commenter saying to vote Green Party. Please do not vote for the literal cicada that is Jill Stein. She is a wasted vote. Do not
Yes.
vote for Jill Stein. As someone who you can go look on TikTok, I have a whole thing where it talks about where I stand on the political spectrum, et cetera, you need to understand that voting for Jill Stein is throwaway vote. There is no
Yes.
clear path for a third party to win. You have to do it at a very low level and build that party all the way up. Past that, Jill Stein just shows up, screams really loudly during the election cycle for a presidential
Yep.
election, and then dips back out. Like, there, she does not do anything for our country. Please pick representatives who and candidates who actually are staying active and in the race. Candidates like myself who are continuing running. I could dip out at any point in time. I have lots of stuff going on, but I believe in what I'm doing, and you deserve better representation. So please, for the love of God, do not vote for that woman. She is a cicada.
Amen. Amen.
Past that, let's talk about the tariffs real quick. So you talked about you were in trucking prior
Yeah.
to this. I used to work in international domestic logistics. So in 2016, I moved into the tile and stone industry. So I was actually there as a sourcing coordinator just after college, and got to witness Trump's tariffs the first time, where my
Yeah.
product, I had $3.5 million worth of freight on an ocean liner that already had all the contracts paid out for it for a um, bigger company here in the United States. They're very well known. And we couldn't figure out what to do. Now, this is high level. It was above my pay grade at the time. I learned about it afterwards. But consequently, we paid and I lost my job, and several other people lost their jobs in order to cover the tariffs, which my job was outsourced to China because they felt like it would be an easier sell, essentially. So I literally trained the people to do my job and then was let go. So this is what happens when we have these tariffs, because that blanket tariff on a product that you literally cannot make cheaper here in the United States. The infrastructure is not there. The industry was not ready for the tariffs to go through, even though that big corporation helped push it through. My small company suffered the consequences. And unfortunately, this last round of tariffs has put them out of business. Now, in 2020, I was working in domestic logistics for like with the trucking industry, and watched yet again the mishandling of this very great businessman and how he just completely screwed over an entire industry. I'm sure you witnessed it, Tom, with the massive rate fluxes where a rate that used to be $900 went to $2,300, and you're like, my people can't pay this. And here we are. So I ended up consequently losing my job again. And I had thought I
Yeah.
was going to do the thing. And, I watched these tariffs negatively affect my industry, negatively affect lots of different aspects of the industry. And yeah, it doesn't work. So, I mean, like, when people ask what my qualifications are for going to office, well, I've worked in the international domestic logistics, and I've worked in the tech industry for 5 years, and I've worked in customer service since I had baby teeth. So, like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm more working class than most of the people in office right now, and I probably will work harder than most of them because they're potatoes.
You need to have a reality TV show to get any of them to pay attention to you.
I know, right? Ugh, I should have created an OnlyFans. Dang it.
Yeah, yeah, you're a little bit behind on the feed pics there. Tell everybody how they can find you, where they can read your message, how they can get in touch with you, and where they can follow you on social media, please.
All right, so you guys can follow me on every social media platform. My biggest platform is TikTok. That is how Tom and I met. I've been a big fan of Tom for a long time. I don't know if you know that. This is the first time we've actually like got to really chat. I know we've been on a couple of TikTok lives, so you got to watch me debate a bit, which
Yes.
is always fun. But you can find me on all the social medias. If you want to look at my website, look at my platform, it is Victoria, the number 4, Tennessee.com or .org. You can go there, donate. That money that I talked about, donations, that $120,000 is all small dollar donations. I do not take corporate PAC money. I do not take APAC money. I am very, very hard pressed as a small dollar donation girly. I will work for you, and I do not want corporations donating to my campaign. So 5, 10, $15 goes a long way. You get a handwritten thank you card from yours truly. I write all my thank you cards because I believe in the message that I'm doing, and I am a Southern girl at heart. So I was raised with some class. And follow me on those. See my platform. I'm running on safety, affordability, freedom, and equity in 2026. And I am going to Congress this November, regardless if I get help from Tennessee or the DNC. I am going to Congress because I am really ready to work for you, and you deserve better representation.
Well, I mean, good luck to you, and we're going to talk again this summer. Okay.
We're going to talk again this summer. We're going to do a lot. It's going to be great. Thank you so much for having me up. Thank
No,
you
no
guys so much.
problem. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for paying attention and tuning in. And as always, this live will be archived on my YouTube channel in the form of a video for you guys to watch in the future. If you guys missed this out, let everybody know. Thank you again for stopping by,
Thank you.
Victoria. I really do
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much. I really
We'll talk
appreciate you
more.
guys. We're going to talk a lot. It's going to be
All
fun.
right. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye.